Texas at Austin. We are Esports Supply. I'm Jonathan Owen, of course, joined by the co-founder, Jake Zinn. Jake, why don't you tell all the students exactly what is it that we
Yeah,
do here at Esports Supply?
thank you, Jonathan. Well, good afternoon, Longhorns. I'm Jake. I'm the co-founder over here at Esports Supply. We are in the business of creating dedicated esports spaces and communities, competition and content. We work primarily with colleges across the country on starting and scaling up esports programs and do a little bit of production work here in the professional esports space, along with supporting esports competitions across the country. So we're really excited to share with you our knowledge and expertise in the space and how that relates back to advertising and the future of public relations.
Absolutely. And just a quick introduction of myself. I am the Senior Operations Manager for Esports Supply. What exactly that means is anything that Jake doesn't want to do, I end up doing. And then also I find some other things to do along the lines. But previously with Esports Stadium Arlington, so very familiar with the events and production space, as well as working with some professional brands, such as the Houston Outlaws, in which if all of this is completely foreign to you, don't worry. We will dive into that in just a second. Exactly right now. So what is esports exactly? So I think the easiest comparison that we can make is think like your rec leagues of basketball and your competitive leagues for basketball. So the NBA for such case, that would be your closest comparison to something like esports. Of course, when I go home and I play Fall Guys or I go home and I play Among Us with my friends, that's not, I wouldn't consider that exactly to be esports. It can be turned into an esport competitively, and that's kind of what the difference is. Esports is like that competitive nature to it. And so you could have all of these games that you're just playing, and then once you kind of turns more into that professional side, that's where we start seeing more of the really the professionalism come in and turns it into from gaming to esports. And so
Yeah.
walking through some of those aspects, Jake, what are some of your thoughts as well?
Yeah, I like the look. We've all probably grew up shooting, baskets in the driveway or shooting hoops with dad. That would be, backyard basketball or driveway basketball would be your Among Us, your Fall Guys to Jonathan's point, and then being in the NBA, whether it's the Dallas Mavericks or LA Lakers or whoever, right? That's your esports. It's probably the best comparison that I've seen.
And so some of you might be thinking, okay, so now we have a little bit of a better understanding of esports. Maybe some are a little bit shaky. So we'll just continue to keep going on that topic a little bit more. And specifically around like the production and broadcasting and competitive area of esports. So when you think about esports in the competitive sense, in the broadcasting sense, it's almost like traditional sports in the sense that not every sport can be captured the same way. Of course, when you're following basketball, you're following the ball at every time. Football, you're always on the ball, but something like golf, you're always following new players. You're having to jump around constantly to keep up with the action. And that's kind of what we've seen across esports, such as a game I'm sure everyone knows, Fortnite. That's a game with sometimes hundreds of people in one drop in, or excuse me, not hundreds, but upwards to 100 of competitors in one game. And so in that sense, it's very much like golf. You have to capture each person individually. So from a broadcast standpoint, visually for some of you to help contextually, like if you turn on the TV and you see this game or that game, in that sense, you will always capture from what the peak of excitement is in that sense.
Hey,
So when you
Jonathan,
come,
quick question. Are you pretty cracked at Fortnite, my guy?
oh my goodness. You want actually you want to hear a fun fact? I have actually never played Fortnite.
Never played Fortnite,
I
so that's crazy. I'm a dad of an 8 and a 5-year-old, and so when throughout this you'll probably hear more dad jokes, for sure. But that's crazy. Me myself, I haven't quite reached cracked level, but I do hear that I'm pretty sweaty. So
Golly. Well, you've got all the right terminology to be a gamer, that's for sure, Jake.
is
So,
that 90% of it? You just have to have the lingo down.
oh, not even 90%. It's way more than that. So you have to have at least 95% lingo and then 5% dance move. Skill at that point is completely arbitrary.
I
But
have I have been known to floss. I won't do it. I'll spare the group here at Texas that, but I have been known to floss a time or two.
well, you have some pretty nice teeth over there, so it looks like you floss quite a bit. Well, anyway, so back to the
Uh,
point,
Back to the
around
point.
production and broadcast, obviously every game has to be showcased a little bit differently. And the way that the showcasing happens right now, for instance, you can't just turn your TV on and go to Esports Center or the Esports channel. Right now, it's predominantly through twitch.tv, which is essentially like the cable of gamers in that sense, is where either personal streamers, professional productions are taking place. You could go there right now, look in just a plethora of options. That's for your live component, which is right now during this COVID era is predominantly the strongest, in which we'll get into that a little bit later. But YouTube is also a hotspot, which I'm sure we're all familiar with to some extent. We watch one gaming video, and then the next month of our lives is, hey, recommended to you is this gaming video, recommended to you is this gaming video. And so I hope that gives a little bit of a context of what the professional side looks like of gaming and how some of it is in comparison to gaming. And so, Jake, I'm going to hand it off to you. We've talked through all of the professional sense, the production, the broadcast, the high levels. But now let's talk about, you mentioned previously with colleges and communities.
Yeah.
I think that's one of the strongest points of esports is that it's just such a strong community.
It's
So I'm going
a
to just
huge community if you just think about how many people game worldwide. It's over 2 billion people in 2020 participated in some sort of video gaming that we know of, right? That's not even including the offline gaming that people are doing at their house. And so it's a massive community. It's like anything, whether it's, some of the topics you guys are talking about in your class, like there's a community around The Bachelor, and there's a community around the Marvel universe. There's definitely a community around sneakerheads globally. But think of esports and gaming as really one and the same with all of that, right? It's a community of people that love to connect around a shared passion. That passion, obviously, being the love of gaming, and that can manifest in many forms. And so, at the college side, and really what we've seen is that right now across middle school and high school, there's over 180,000 active varsity esports players. There's about 4,000 varsity esports roster spots, including the good folks over at Longhorn Gaming. Shout out to them. And look, at the end of the day, I think you're going to see the evolution and the more inclusion in esports at the collegiate level. Definitely not, anywhere near your traditional sports today. But if you look at just professional sports overall, League of Legends, which is the world's most popular game and the world's most popular esport, it actually has it's the third highest viewed sport in North America. It's got more viewers than Major League Baseball, than Major League Soccer. It really right now is only trailing the NBA as well as the NFL, and I continue to see as more colleges onboard teams, and my kids grow up that were pretty cracked at Fortnite when they were younger, probably find a new game growing as they get older and continue on. And so I don't know how the class feels about it. We live and breathe gaming and esports every day, so we're obviously a little biased, but I continue to I in my head see collegiate esports being some of the biggest just kind of college sports out there. I think you're going to see, Longhorn Gaming versus OU Gaming and the Red River rivalry at some point. I know you're starting to see that now, but it's no reason it couldn't get just as big as that. And so we're obviously really, really excited to share how we think gaming is just immersing itself and crossover and integrating itself into virtually everything, including the topics that you guys are learning about in your class.
absolutely. I think that was pretty well put there. That it's just the community has kind of brought esports up from pretty much from the bottom to where it is now. And before we even talk about where esports is now, let's go ahead and talk a little bit about where esports was pre-COVID. Obviously, very disruptive to the industry, disruptive to really everything in the world. As obviously, I'm having to talk to you right now to my camera instead of
Hey,
talking.
on that note, Jonathan, will you start and then restart your camera again? You're super fuzzy, my guy.
Okay.
There you are. Nah,
Cool.
crystal clear. Perfect. Thank you. Sorry, continue.
No worries. So, jumping back into it, we're going to go ahead and talk through a little bit of what esports was before COVID, just to help everyone get an understanding of where the industry was at, how it was growing, what the natural trajectory looked like before COVID kind of just came in and destroyed everything. So, with that said, some of the biggest games right now, as Jake mentioned, League of Legends, Dota, or Defenders of the Ancient 2, and some of the bigger fighting games out there, they were hosting massive events. So, like with the League of Legends, what Jake was mentioning, League of Legends World Championship for that game alone had more viewership than the Super Bowl. I know for us in America, that's astonishing, but that game was for across the world. So if you want to make comparisons, obviously it's maybe not a one-to-one, but that's the extent of some of the viewership could get to, as well as something similar to that is like the international, where there is multiple millions of dollars in prize winnings, pretty much driven by the community. And so that's kind of really the hallmark of esports is the people coming together to bolster what the competitive nature is around them. And then on top of course, I'm talking about the online viewership, but now in the in-person viewership for those events, I mean, we're talking for the international specifically, that one was a multi-week event, not just a singular day event, but that was something that I was having over about 2 weeks time and filling up an entire arena of people almost the entirety of its time. So let's think about it. If you want to make a comparison, that's like essentially having your local basketball team having a game every single day, nearly filling up the stadium every single day, which was of course that they were doing most of the time. But that's to give you some skill. Esports at the biggest level can get there. And so that's obviously incredible as gamers ourselves. And Jake has mentioned, we have loved to see that kind of growth, that natural progression to getting to that space. Because obviously, the NBA didn't start there either. They started with someone playing in their backyard, like Jake mentioned, just playing with your parents one day, shooting some hoops. And next thing you know, you play with your neighbors. Next thing you know, you play with your neighborhood. Next thing you know, you play with your school. Next thing you know, you're a global superstar. And that's kind of the same route that esports has taken. In the current landscape, however, that it couldn't really even be more different. Of course, with esports being, or excuse me, gaming being digital, that obviously opens up the grounds to host everything online. But obviously, that comes with a little bit of its catch, in which, of course, I think has its own certain quirks about it. But Jake, why don't you go ahead and talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I mean, look, you're talking about a sport that lives digitally and natively on the internet, right? And so, you've seen this transformation from in-person, in real life events to now almost virtually digital. At the same time, esports has gone mainstream. I think viewership and participation and everything has just skyrocketed during the pandemic, as a lot of kids, a lot of adults, a lot of people are just at home now, participating, taking an interest. I remember over the summer, we were involved in the same studio software that you guys are looking at today was used for the NBA 2K League over the summer on ESPN. That really was a replacement, quite frankly, to a lot of sports at that time. And you've seen digital racing take on a new resurgence, and you've got kids that were racing on racing simulators, like Jonathan said, in their parents' basement, that now are on Red Bull racing teams, and getting to actually get into real Indy cars and stuff like that. So it's been pretty amazing to see that transformation happen. On the professional side, there's been a little bit of a lag. I know they've been trying to figure out a bubble system. But to our point now, it's really all about creating content. It's all about live streaming. It's all about this digital first sort of sport that you can easily broadcast and integrate into a lot of different things. And you've seen a lot of stuff outside of gaming start to cross over, which I think we really want to show you some examples that are going to be really relevant to you guys and your projects at South by Southwest and Sneakerheads and the Marvel Fan Club. We definitely have seen the intersection of music and esports, or culture and fashion and sneakers and esports, and obviously with the Marvel universe and the intellectual property that comes with that, this crossover into not just esports but gaming in general. So we're really excited to share some examples of that with you, and we look forward to talking through it. Jonathan?
Yeah, that's a great point, Jake. And one thing before we move on, I want to even just touch on there is you talked about how there's been a comeback of like indie racing, for instance, of even like drone racing has seen a lot of success during this COVID time. And one last thing before we move on, chess actually has become a very popular thing on twitch.tv. So if you're a chess fan out there, you could go there. Some of the top streamers at any given time could have upwards of 30,000 concurrent viewers, which for just watching someone play chess, obviously, when you think about it, it's just like 10 people around a table watching those two guys play. But now you have 30,000 people
Yeah, I think the
watching
Queen's.
actually playing. And I think that's kind of the great thing about where we're at. Obviously, with events aside, the great thing of what we've capitalized with where we're at right now in the industry, Jake.
Yeah, I think with the Queen's Gambit, right, that definitely helped. I don't know if I had played chess in like a decade until my wife and I watched that Netflix series, and then I've definitely given it a go. But yeah, it's been amazing to watch this kind of anything that can be done on a computer and be done competitively start to take the form of what you'd see with traditional sports, and one, gaining an audience, gaining sponsorships, partnerships. That's a huge piece of esports for those in the class that are here to study advertising. Like, one of the top jobs in esports right now would be a partnerships person, a person who can go out and talk to brands that maybe don't make the most sense for gaming, but really maybe do when you start to analyze the audience, right? So those can go out and land big partnerships with financial companies or insurance companies or car companies, where you're starting to see this crossover happen. And so, yeah, Jonathan, you want to just kind of dive in? I know we've got some examples to show as well, but why don't we go ahead and dive in?
We received a list of topics that your professor sent us of some of the areas in which we find some integrations with esports, and we actually selected only 3 of those because we felt there was best cases for those, and the ones we're going to talk through are South by Southwest, sneakerheads, and Marvel fans. So starting with South by
I
Southwest,
thought we were doing
obviously.
the Bachelor Nation. No integration there. I'm just
Well,
kidding.
we found that maybe there are games that are survival of the fittest, and Bachelor, there could be some parallels going between those two, but I would say maybe not directly. I'm sure we could find some. If anyone wants any help with those, you could definitely ask us later. We can help out with that. But for the sake of right now, we're gonna focus on these 3, Jake. Sorry, you're gonna have to save that one for later. But for South by Southwest, obviously, there's the Gaming Expo to South by Southwest, which I have attended multiple times. I went as an exhibitor, but obviously they're showcasing of panel discussions. It's basically South by Southwest, but for gaming in that regards. And there's esports events there, and so I don't need to dive too much into that. But something we wanted to show you, since South by Southwest is so music oriented and almost innovative in some senses, we wanted to show you just a little clip of what the League of Legends World opening ceremony was in 2019 to give you a crossover of what music and esports, that collaboration could look like. So Jake, go ahead and roll the video.
Check. Hey. Yeah. Too fast, we moving in slow mo. I'm a guy, but I actually don't know. Screaming it from side to side. My bitch, she on the photo. Yo, that stuff is like my words. And now she's flying in birds. Got the whole quick, you body go down. But you know me, I know such thing. Yeah, but this is my time. And look at my eyes. I'm giving to the guys. My heart, I'm sick. Want to oblige me, keep it down. But it's tough to lie. I'm dancing around for my hours. And I'm in a rough without.
So I love that video. Honestly not the biggest viewer of League of Legends, but I always make time to watch the opening ceremony for exactly what you saw there, that massive crossover between pop culture and gaming, and the most immersive experience you could even imagine. I want to walk through because I know a lot about that project specifically. I know the people that put it together. It all starts with exactly what you guys are going to school to learn, and what we talked about earlier. It all starts with partnerships. Somebody somewhere went in and said, MasterCard, this is a massive audience of people right in your target demographic, and we wanted to show something that's never been done and never been seen before. And actually, can you bite off on it? And so I believe, don't hold me to it, but I believe the number for that opening ceremony, the partnership deal size was around $4 million to put that show together. And this happens, so just again to set the stage, this is like the Super Bowl of League of Legends. They do kind of multiple stops, all kind of leading up to the grand finale of the best 2 teams are going to be crowned world champion. And it's super exciting stuff. One of the things I loved about it, again, it was more than just the music. They used projection mapping and hologram technology to really pull out and deliver something that visually looks amazing on screen, but even better there in person. And so would love to see some really, there's smaller versions of this, right, that could be done at South by Southwest. That technology is really just a projector and a silk screen. But as you can see, this crossover between pop culture and gaming is something that you're already seeing. You saw it as early as 2019, and obviously before that. and definitely something you continue to see as artists like T-Pain and many others are just turning to Twitch, frankly, to put out their new music and connect with their audience. We've seen kind of the emergence of digital concerts because of COVID. So you've seen a lot of artists jumping to places like Twitch, sharing new music while playing games. There's other really cool stuff like you can Google and check this out, but the guys from Migos, there's like this thing going around where you can create them in different video games, whether it's Madden or 2K or even Grand Theft Auto, and people will go around and pretend that they're, Takeoff or Quavo and go around and do a bunch of really funny stuff and put the videos to YouTube. So as you can see, the crossover between music and gaming is so deep, and we would love to see something like this, or love to hear your guys' idea of how you could integrate this into the music side of South by Southwest, and not just this sort of standalone tech and gaming side.
And some of you also might be thinking, well, it's 2019, it's a little early to say it's only one example. This actually isn't even the first time Riot did something like this, or League of Legends per se. The 2018 World Opening is where they unveiled their AR presentation in that sense. If you want to look it up for yourselves, you could just type in League of Legends KDA World Opening, World Ceremony 2018, etc. You'll find they made a music video for it. They had the live performance for it, and that blew up. I wasn't following League of Legends that much, but I could not stop seeing it. Everyone kept talking about it. Everyone kept singing it. They kept doing the dance moves. I mean, I know it a little bit just because I've seen it so many times at this point. But I think to your point, Jake, is this: they just found their audience. They identified with it. They saw these people really like this genre of music, and these people really love this game. And so they just cross blended the two and found the perfect opportunity. And so, as you mentioned, Jake, I think there could be a lot of interesting topics that can be explored here. And I think this is really a great opportunity to really figure out exactly what is the most natural integration in some of those senses, and what would be the most innovative way to continue forward in that sense.
Yeah, I agree. Hey, quick question, man. What kind of sneakers are you wearing?
How do I say this correctly? None.
Awesome. Well, would love to talk about the massive integration between sneakers and gaming and fashion just in general. So let's kick that off.
Jumping into the next topic, we've got sneakerheads. So this one, you might think to yourself, okay, music's a little bit easier. That's all digital. Now we're talking the physical component of it. Well, we'll have some examples for you to look at. So looking at the right in front of us right now, you got some PlayStation vintage Nikes. Jake, let me tell you, that PlayStation 1, I mean, that takes me back. I mean, I was way too young to really even enjoy it that much, but those sneakers definitely, like, if you had a PlayStation in your hands and those sneakers on, that, I mean, that just fits right in, if you ask me.
What was your favorite game on PlayStation 1?
Oh, Crash Bandicoot. Don't even, no
Ooh.
questions asked. That is an instant. It was that, like, Crash Bash, because that was, in my opinion, the better Mario Party. But now that the audience hates me now for saying that, I'm sure I should let you keep talking now.
No, you're good. Oh yeah, it's like that. And I was gonna say I was a Metal Gear Solid fan, but the Crash Bandicoot was an amazing game as well. These are amazing shoes. And if I was a PlayStation guy, which I'm really not, I would definitely get a pair of those.
And so just not even limited to certain examples like that, such as we even have some more examples. League of Legends is kind of the topic of what we're always talking about right now, seemingly, just because it is just such a big game. And we're just trying to show that there's really no limits to once games start getting bigger and bigger. And we've even seen some brands like Louis Vuitton partnering up with League of Legends to have their own lines of merchandise. Obviously, not in the sneakerhead department there, but just showing you the reach of what esports can get. There's actually even the League of Legends sneaker line that came out not too long ago, even, in which we could have some visual aids for that, so you can see them as well.
The most interesting thing, Jonathan, about the Louis Vuitton activation is that it sold out, I believe, in 9 minutes. So just did this huge kind of PR release and advertising campaign leading up to it. And I believe it sold out in the first 9 minutes of going live. So part of that's the luxury market. The other part of it is just, again, it speaks to the volume and reach of League of Legends. You buying your girl that purse?
How do you know I don't already have one? That's the better. Yeah.
Uh,
But to
yeah,
even continue on that same token of just the availability and there you have it, the game over
the game over
flippers, whatever you want to
slip-ons.
call them, slip-ons. What did I say? Flippers? Man, what am I? I think I just dated myself and I'm not even that old. But anyways, continuing forward. So if you go to Puma's website right now, at this very moment, if you go to Puma's website and if you go to their lifestyle line, you'll actually find that Cloud9, an esports organization, has an entirety of their own line of clothing. So we're not talking like specific drops or a partnership for a one-off kind of shoe or a specialty one-time item thing. We're talking a dedicated line for an esports organization. As you can see, they've got the shoes there, the Cloud9 shoes. They've got the Cloud9 shirts. They've got the Cloud9 hoodies. I mean, they've got it all. The joggers, and that's kind of the similar growth that we're starting to see across this esports landscape. And it's not only just for sneakers, but it's just merchandise in totality. As far as you see someone walking down the street with a jersey for, like, let's say the Lakers, or I'm in Texas, so the Cowboys, I see that a lot. But now you can start seeing people walking around with esports merch, and that might not in the future, 5-10 years down the line, or even sooner, perhaps that could be something that's just common, more common than we think not. So,
Is,
Jake,
is this
talk us a
something,
little bit
Jonathan, you
through.
think is? I mean, one, I'm a massive fan of the they call it a waist bag, I call it a crossbody, but of this fanny pack looking thing right here. But do you see, like, is this something obviously this has been somewhat successful. I've been, to your point, I've been actually walking around and seeing people in the Cloud9 Puma stuff. Do you feel like this is kind of the future of kind of streetwear meets esports? It's a brand picking a specific team and doing a lineup like this, or you see it more on the limited release Louis Vuitton direct with the publisher? So the question is, does the activation work better in your opinion if it's team plus the brand or brand plus the publisher?
My answer to that would be, why not both? We've seen brands like 100 Thieves. Some of you might be familiar out there with them. They're a predominant esports organization and competition, but they're most notably successful for their merchandise, and where they have drops that are exclusive and you can only get them. There have been multiple pictures of professional athletes wearing their merchandise. Their merchandise really has stretched a long ways, is 100 Thieves. And so they've kind of followed the drop format, but they also have their standalone products, of which have kind of just been like their bread and butter in their day in, day out. And similar things such as FaZe Clan. I mean, they have partners. I think Little Yachty's in FaZe Clan, just pushing their merchandise. There's so many areas. I
Like
think Drake even
Offset,
announced
Drake.
something.
I know Bronny signed with them as well. But yeah, I like that hoodie, man. I would get that.
And so with that said, it's just the environment for merchandise and esports and kind of this lifestyle streetwear, we are seeing it evolve, and obviously interjecting itself into the sneakerhead world to kind of come back into the topic here. And so
Yeah,
I think
you're
the limit is pretty much endless as far as people are interested.
yeah. So Jonathan, a question for you. So you're a gamer. You obviously know a lot of gamer esport players. Um, is is there performance wear, or do you think it's truly just like streetwear with the branding? That's my personal opinion. The streetwear is cooler. I'm not sure exactly what a gaming shoe would do, but I know Puma has put out a specific performance based slipper looking kind of gaming shoe. What are your thoughts on performance esports wear versus just streetwear?
Hey, I think it's cool, in my opinion. At least I would go for something like that. For instance, when I worked with the Houston Outlaws, I got some merchandise from them. I have jerseys of them still, and sometimes when I go and play tennis or whenever I'm doing any sports activity, I just throw on a jersey because it's come through. I mean, it's a jersey. It's meant to be used in that competitive sense. But I would say it's pretty subject to the opinion. Whenever we were selling merchandise to some of it, some people, quite frankly, just wanted a black shirt and a logo and the name. So that was actually our most popular item, was just the most basic that it could be. But to answer your question, Jake, I mean, again, there's going to be those people out there who are like your Supreme fans or like the bait brands out there who want more of a little bit diversity to what they wear. And I know a few people who wear, like you said, the fanny packs, like the crossbody bags, and I could absolutely see something like a Cloud9 or just the example we looked at for that sense, or like a FaZe Clan, 100 Thieves, having those items and then becoming something more than what even we realize they are, just because of the association with the esports brand evolving so much into this lifestyle brand, and to where it's just, I think the also in totality of this whole conversation is kind of it shows the perception of gaming is changing as well. As far on the community front, it went from being, you're this nerd, it's like you're weird, you live in your mom's basement, eat Doritos and drink Mountain Dew, but now it's kind of like, in almost, in a sense, it's almost cool to play Fortnite. I'm sure, Jay, you could talk about this, like your kids, when they play, they talk with their other friends and like, oh, they're
Oh
competing with
yeah,
one another in Fortnite as they would
it's
normally.
the most culturally relevant thing I think in any, like, probably, I don't know, 8 to like 14-year-old's life right now is we've been at, soccer practice and baseball practice, and it's like trying to herd cats, trying to get them to pay attention to what's happening, because they're talking about Fortnite, they're talking about Among Us, or talking about some other game. So yeah, I think it's obviously really culturally relevant. I'd love to see from this group, right? The people doing the sneakerheads, like what exactly what are they envisioning, right? Is there a collaboration out there that doesn't exist today that should exist? If all of a sudden, Jordan dropped Among Us, sneaker that was somewhat affordable, I'm sure my kids would be well, I guess if it wasn't affordable or not would be irrelevant to them, but I definitely think they would be asking me for that, or if there was a new Nike collection or Adidas collection. Maybe it's the Fortnite Ultra Boost, right? Like something like that, I think would absolutely sell. But curious to hear from this group, right? This is what they're studying, and this is what they do day in and day out. So we look forward to through our follow-up conversation around this, and yeah, we love it.
Last but not least, we have the Marvel fans. It's going to be the last topic we cover here for today. So, Jake, I think you could definitely kick us off in that regard, because Marvel, I mean, it might seem like an easier comparison to make. It's already a pretty big reference across, I mean, life itself. Everyone knows what Marvel is, but we've already seen video games in the past, Marvel alliances, Marvel versus Capcom. It's been prevalent in the gaming space, but go ahead and walk us through a little bit how
Yeah.
it's relevant now.
So for the ad nerds in the room, including myself and as one of those, this is the one of the best advertisements that has worked in terms of taking my personal money. Uh, I'm pretty sure I own all of these skins on both of my son's accounts. So this was the Marvel Fortnite Nexus War. They had great little videos and clips. And for those who don't know, Fortnite is a completely free game to play. However, when you want to buy really cool stuff like the Iron Man skin and the Iron Man backpack and the Thor skin, what you have to do is buy things called V-Bucks, which is like, the Bitcoin of Fortnite universe. You buy that, and then you spend money on skins. Some people think it's dumb, but I think it's awesome, and I absolutely love the fact that they've done this. It makes the game interesting. The game changes. For those who don't know, Fortnite changes fairly periodically, about every 2 to 3 months, and have some sort of integration with something a lot more recently with just Disney in general, with the Marvel universe. I also have the Mandalorian skin. Shout out to Disney Plus for putting that amazing show together. But you see Marvel specifically not just crossing into Fortnite, the publisher. Going back to our earlier question, why can't there be both? When you're talking about, hey, is it better for a brand to partner with the publisher in a specific video game or an esport team? We've seen it with both Marvel and Fortnite. Obviously, I love the game, so this is where, again, the advertising has worked, at least in my household. Also, I think kind of nationally, I think last numbers were Fortnite is a $18 billion company in terms of revenue last year. So all off of a completely free game. And so this crossover between pop culture and video games, and then having this layer of transactions that sit in between it, I think is a brilliant way. And so those working on the Marvel project, obviously, Fortnite's beat you to the game to some degree, but would love to see and hear your thoughts on how this could be translated into other video games and other publishers throughout. And then Jonathan, I know that you are a Team Liquid fan, and so I will toss it over to you to discuss this activation.
Hey, today I learned something new. I'm a Team Liquid fan. Here we go. So, but jumping into it on what Jake's talking about here, Marvel partnered with an esports organization called Team Liquid, in which, as you can see there, they just have merchandise that is cross-branded between both. And so obviously that for their pro players, whenever they're competing, they would have their own merchandise lines. For instance, one of the leaders of one of their teams, of Team Liquid, he was the leader, as I mentioned. He would wear the Captain America Team Liquid shirt, as in indicating, the leader of the team, Captain America. And I mean, even you could see it there. It's just awesome opportunities there. And as Jake mentioned, it's more of the sense of you already like Team Liquid, you already like Marvel, so why didn't you just put both of them together and create
That
something
is
awesome?
super
That
cool.
kind of goes in loop of what we were talking about with sneakerheads, is that the range of which esports can reach is not only just to gamers, it's not only just to lifestyle attracted people, but rather like, okay, now we've got Marvel fans, and that's kind of the same universe when you think about it, as people who are really into that kind of genre of gaming, and Marvel in that sense is a very easy crossovers to make. And so, Jake, is that what jersey would you get from the Marvel Team Liquid side?
Oh, that last Spider-Man one for sure. Is that? I think that's definitely my favorite Marvel character. That or Iron Man. I've actually have owned a couple of Iron Man skateboards, and Spider-Man, so to speak. So as you can see, Marvel crossover into really anything is definitely is always a possibility in the Marvel universe. The other thing that I love about it with esports, and I think it's been a consistent theme throughout the day, is yes, esports is digital, and the easiest thing, like you saw with gaming and esports and brand activation and advertising and integration of these brands into it, can happen both in the digital form, which is what we saw with the Fortnite skins, but also, as you've seen throughout this entire presentation, in the physical form, whether in the case of merchandise or other goods that exist out there. Like I think I'd said, skateboards, right? There's so many things you can do with these type of brands, and these type of activations, and being able to pull that in. And ultimately, I think one drives the other, right? I think esports and gaming is huge. I would say there's probably people that never watched some of the Marvel stuff before, kids specifically that learned about Marvel through Fortnite. And I think there's probably people that were really super fans of the Marvel universe that have learned about video gaming and maybe even Team Liquid or Fortnite from that. So those crossovers, I think, drive each other. If you had a cool pie chart that showed the total addressable market for both, I think it would be like half of the globe. And so between the two, so love to hear and kind of see what those people in the room or on the Zoom call here that are in charge of that can really do and see, and what they come up with. That Marvel is something I'm obviously really, really excited about.
To add on to that, just a little token, just while we're still on the Marvel topic, you mentioned that the marketing side of it for kids, maybe not so much watching Marvel movies, but some point that they actually did was when Avengers Endgame, which was a movie that really didn't need any marketing, everyone was going to see it anyways. When that game, or excuse me, when that movie was coming out into theaters, Fortnite actually allowed you to play Thanos. So it was
Yes.
that same time frame. It was kids, like you mentioned, the kids who are probably not the ones who are going to watch are now playing as this character, like, whoa, this is really cool. And then automatically they're thinking, oh, hey, there's that movie over there. So not only are there merchandise opportunities, not only are there cross-platform opportunities, but there's also the marketing aspect, which, like you said, Jake, that can have so much power. Even to, you think Fortnite's catered to kids, but like you said, you're the one who's purchasing all these things and playing for yourself. But
Oh yeah, I mean, well, yes, and then my kids drive that, right? So it's dad, dad, dad. You have to come down here. You have to come down here. There's the Iron Man skin, which is my youngest. And to your point, actually, my 5-year-old has never seen in game, but learned about Thanos specifically from Fortnite. So the crossovers are amazing, and I hope today, in terms of what we've presented to the class, makes sense. If you have any questions, concerns, Jonathan and I talk at complete nauseum. We could take up probably 10 of these classes to talk about gaming and esports. So feel free to reach out. It's really simple. It's just Jake at esportsupply.com or Jonathan at esportsupply.com. Huge shout out to probably the coolest professor in all of, I would say, all of the world, but we all know Texas is a very, very special place. So it's, definitely in the state of Texas, if not the world. Dr. Aaron Riley here. So we appreciate the time. We appreciate the ability to come and speak to you. And again, thank you so much, Texas Immersion class. Looking forward to the follow-up in May. Take care.